it is not good to be working class in the academic world. Of all places where you would think people would have an open-minded and liberal attitude, to come from the working class is a very bad pedigree. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you found in that regard?
This is embodied in this anecdote told to me by a professor, Michigan. He said that...
My school yet.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, it is your school.
Terrible, terrible.
He showed up, a kid from North Dakota, literally out of the cornfields, and he found himself facing the host at a party, and the host said, you know, red or white wine? And he said, well, how about a beer? And he said the person gave him a look that made him realize that I will never get tenure, that this just ain't going to happen for me, simply because I said that. And then there was, with a smirk, the host said, well, I guess we can find you a beer. You want a glass? I said, no, because at this point he figured it's lost. I'll take the can. So he takes his can of beer, and he sits down, and there's a bunch of guys there just sitting around talking about what their grandfathers did. Not just what their fathers did, but what their grandfathers did. And one said, well, actually, my grandfather was an ambassador. Mine ran a railroad, this and that. And Doug knew what was happening, and he was going to come around. Not Doug, I'm sorry, his name was Tom. Tom knew what was happening. He was going to come around to him. And they said, well, what'd your grandfather do? He said, well, one of them fills candy machines in Bismarck, and the other's a farmer. And he said that absolutely stopped the conversation. That was the end of the game. It was a thud. You would think that in these bastions of learning, you would think that in these places where people talk about ideas and books and the notion that we're all equal, that this kind of thing wouldn't occur. But you mentioned the word pedigree. People will always say, well, there are people like us, and then there are the others, and they'll look at a working class person and say, well, you came from less than desirable circumstances, or there's something about you that's a little bit off. I mean, there's something about us that's all a little bit off, like engines with bad timing. Yeah. You know. Yep. And it doesn't necessarily fit well. Yeah.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.
Welcome.